Just wait. He's got to get the camera out. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the Corporation of the Township of Bonnfield meeting, May 28th. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Moved by Councillor Featherstone, seconded by Councillor Clark, that this meeting be opened at 7 p.m. All in favor? Carried. Adoption of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Featherstone, second by Councillor Corbett, that the agenda presented to council and dated the 28th day of May 2024 be adopted as prepared. All in favor? Carried. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Then we'll have the adoption of the previous minutes. Moved by Councillor Featherstone, second by Councillor Clark, that the minutes of the regular meeting of council, May 14th, 2024, be adopted as circulated. All in favor? Carried. Next, we have the presentation and delegation. We have a presentation from Dave Hodges with respect to proposed changes to the 2023 48 procedural bylaw. Is Dave Hodges here?
I am here.
Would you like to come up to the podium, please?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and councillors. So I'm here to talk about our procedural process to request an open question period put to the end of each council meeting. I've talked to several constituents and found that our website is very difficult to navigate and to find the information in pertaining to getting on to the agenda for the meeting. My proposal is that we do have a set period of time, that we have a sign-up sheet so that it's a first come, first served basis, and that your question is kept to a 5 to 10 minute basis. The same as procedures for doing presentations. I find that we have a very overwhelmingly older population in Bonnfield. We're an older community, very old school community. And I do believe that the people of Bonnfield would like to have a voice. They just don't understand the process to get there. I've been involved in politics my whole life, so I do understand the process. I've talked to one of the councillors prior to this, and he was in favor of a question period as well. But obviously there has to be something set out. Like I said, my suggestion is to have a sign-up sheet for when they come in, and it's on a first come, first served basis. It be set to a set time limit. I figure 60 minutes. I did this as well in Chatham, Kent, and it went over overwhelmingly. When it first started in Chatham, Kent, we had lots of questions. It always went to the max time limit. After a few council meetings, we were down to 2 or 3 questions every council meeting. And it was just for the people that don't understand the procedural process. And I do believe it would give the people of Bonnfield a better voice for you to understand where everybody's coming from. I'm not suggesting that councillor or Madam Mayor, that user be deemed or any harassment or any form of abuse. That's not the point of the question period. And there has to be certain rules set out, such as, you know, if you come this week to ask a question, you can't come next week and ask the same question and expect a different answer. If you do have the same question, it'll just be stricken from the record and you'll have to ask it a different time or ask a different question. I do believe it would help as I was new here 3 years ago, I didn't even know how to get to your guys' council meetings until I actually was on YouTube and searched Bonfield once, and the council meeting popped up. So the problem in Bonfield is that we do have an outdated website. I do understand that that is on the back burner for the current time. It is very expensive to redo a website. And I do understand from what I've talked to from people that have been here for a long time that we have had a question period prior to this bylaw being amended to the way it is. So my suggestion is we go back to the question period, give the people of Bonfield a voice, and then we can hear out what people that are older or just not technologically advanced. I live right here on the corner of Railway. My internet sucks. Like, I'm in a complete dead zone. I can't use my cell phone unless I go outside my house. So there are people around the Bonfield community too that are internet disabled. They don't have internet. They can't afford to get, Starlink like I have, things like that. So it does leave people without an avenue to address council. And I believe that if we had a better voice, that the town would run better and people would have the answers that they're looking for. And this is my honest opinion. And I thank council and Madam Mayor. I thank you all for letting me present this to you today. And I look forward to working with you all in the future. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I'm going to go around the table, but first, I would like to thank you for following the procedure that's in place right now. And nothing directed at you, certainly. I've been working with this township as a volunteer for 29 years, and I have never been so disrespected as I have been the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I came out to run for council again, not that I wanted to, and I was asked to, and I came here with my good heart, along with the council. They asked us to get along. That's one of the first things that we were asked: come to the table and get along.
Yeah.
Try and to have a functional council. Try and make decisions together. We don't always get along,
But you
but
don't always agree
nobody
either, so-
knows that.
not everybody agrees with everybody's opinion.
Yes, yeah,
so.
like in order to move forward, we have to agree with things. And I didn't go out here and make the rules up last week when I said, no, you cannot come in here and act like that. And from this time on, as you know, in 2007, I was the mayor and I brought forward the question and answer period. And I'm not putting blame on anybody because it changed, because I don't know why it changed, okay?
Correct.
But it did change. And for 9 years, it was that way. And nobody come and said to us, how do you put the question and answer period back? Because we'd like to come in and discuss this.
Yeah.
We were not given that opportunity to make that change. So we're following the bylaw and assume that everybody's happy with it. And then last week when I had to shut it down because I wasn't being disrespectful.
No, and I agree
I can tell you
that wasn't
that.
appropriate for the council meeting. I've never seen a council meeting go sideways like that. And I think that the question period would actually keep the people at bay until the end at least, right? And then it can be, you're not being orderly, you can be asked to leave. Like if that's in the bylaw as well, that if you're not treating councillor, Madam Mayor, with respect, that you are to be asked to leave and to treat council with respect. Yous are the ones that run our town.
Exactly. We're doing the best job possible.
yeah.
We're doing what we've been mandated to do. We're doing that. And first thing we were asked was bring a doctor in, get us a doctor back here. We brought 2.
Yeah, and I would like to thank you because now I have a doctor.
Get a trailer bylaw. We're trying to do that. And we're doing what we're asked to do.
Yep.
And I see this council as a good working council. And I don't have a problem with bringing the question and answer period back. I don't have a problem with that at all. And our doors are open. When you go out there tonight, there's business cards on the wall. Pick one up. You don't know who to call. The numbers are all there. Mine is there. All the counselors are there. Grab a business card.
I'd like
Call.
to thank Councillor Featherstone actually, because he directed me as to who I had to contact anyways to get on this agenda.
And
But I did know the process as well, right? Like I've been in front of a council before. So it's not my first rodeo, as we would say in the
No,
country.
and I
but-
appreciate the fact that you knew to come in here, get on here and ask the question. And that's all we ask. We have an excellent staff here. We have an excellent staff. We have an excellent community. We have a wonderful community. We have the builders of this community that have been here, we're a very proud community.
Very.
We're
That's
not
why
a
I live here.
community that we have nothing here and all that conversation. How is that beneficial to our municipality? It's not one minute. So what you ask, I have no problem with at all. And I'll give council the opportunity to say that and to say what they think about it. And again, I thank you for coming forward
Do you
in
have
the
any
manner you
questions
did.
for me? Like, if any council has any questions, feel free to ask them, because I'm an open book. So like, if you have a question, I'll give you an answer to the best of my ability.
Okay, I'm going to start this way.
Sure, John. Thank you for the presentation. I'll be honest, I have absolutely no problems with a question and answer period. It's one of the pieces that I actually enjoy the most about being on council, is being able to engage with the constituents. So I have no problem with it. I think all I would ask at this point is that we turn it over to staff to bring back a report, to scope it, to come with recommendations as to what that would look like, whether it's timing of questions, how many questions. Let's just put the parameters in,
Yeah.
so that it's reasonable and that it's respectful and.
Well, there has to be rules, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, no, I have no concerns with question and answer period, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you again for coming. I think the people that have come before know we get really excited when there are people in the audience, and because it shows that they are engaged in the community and that they're listening, and we welcome it. We want them to come, so I have no issues. And again, just maybe have a look to see what other people are doing, what's working, what best practices are, just things like that. So.
Sure.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming.
No, thank you very much. Thank
Thank
you for
you.
listening.
Councillor Clark, Councillor Featherstone.
Yeah, I'm supportive in theory as well. I want to know why it was taken away as well. If we can try and figure that out, like if it didn't work, are we kind of rewriting the wheel here? But I think everybody here is open to conversation, even outside of council meetings. We're all available, between email and phone and, Facebook, social media, having conversations with people. We're not trying to hide from people. We're, upfront with that. We're welcome to conversation. As far as the question and answer period, yeah, let's just look for a report and see how we can make it work and whether it's feasible or not. But in theory, I like the idea.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll refer to our staff, to our CAO, to look at how we can bring that back into our meeting. But I thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Next, we have a presentation from BDO with respect to our financials, and I'll turn it over to
Just the financials, not represented. I'm gonna leave that.
our representative. Yeah.
Your worship, members of council. I'm Dean DeCare. I will talk as loud as.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. For those that remember me or don't remember me, very, very happy to be here tonight to present the audit findings for the corporation, the Township of Bonfield, for your 2023 year end. So I have a number of very positive comments. If those on council, you remember the last time that we We're here presenting our audit findings on the 2022 fiscal year, the financial statements. We were here, it was about 11 months after year end, I think. And now here we are in May. The audit is fully complete. The external audit program went very well. So again, thank you to your staff for putting together a good set of books and records. And I'm going to walk you through the presentation right here of how your financial statements look. As you know, as members of council and all members of the community, preparing annual financial statements for every municipality across our great province is an integral part of being accountable as a municipality and as a township. And the reason that you do it is to let people know how and where monies are spent and how and where monies come from and what your financial position is at a point in time. All municipalities in the province of Ontario have a December year end, just like you do. So you follow the calendar year, which is consistent as well. There's lots of information you can get on key performance indicators, comparisons, etc., through the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, which aggregates and collects all this information through the receipt of audited financial statements, as well as what's called the Financial Information Return, or the FIR. So our audit report, I'm just going to talk to this report. This is the report that I sign. It's going to be dated effective May 28th, 2024, as I present to you guys tonight. And it is issued, it is a clean audit opinion with one caveat. That one caveat is in 2023, the Public Sector Accounting Board in Canada made a change. And that change brought in an accounting standard called asset retirement obligations. So what that standard does is it requires all governments, whether you're the federal government, provincial government, territorial, Indigenous municipalities across the country, or municipal-like entities across the country, to measure and recognize retirement obligations for assets that you own, where you're going to incur a cost in the future. And the best example that's in the accounting standards is property that you own with asbestos. So when if you have buildings with asbestos or other properties, that when you retire those assets, you then will incur a cost to clean them or to remediate that asset. You must recognize that particular liability up front. One of the liabilities that gets captured in there for you guys, for Bonfield, is of course your landfill, which is an obligation that you currently measure under the old accounting standards. So the one caveat or the one qualification in your audit report is with regards to that. We are working with Nikki, one of the senior leaders at BDO is here tonight, actually. He's here to cheer on me, but if you guys don't. And to work with Nikki, with your staff, in order to quantify that in 2024, because it's going to take some time. And it's not just accountants, right? It's going to take some engineer time. It's going to take some public works time to be able to go and inventory the assets that are owned by the corporation, the Township of Bonfield, where there may be an ARO obligation or liability. So if we keep going, the other thing in my report, you can keep going, Nikki. The other thing in my report, it reminds everyone of roles and responsibilities. In a municipality, the CAO and staff have the responsibility of maintaining a chart of accounts, a general ledger set of accounts. And this has been done for over a century, okay, in municipalities. And those chart of accounts are subject to inspection under the Municipal Act in the province of Ontario by a licensed public accounting firm, of which BDO is obviously one, probably the best one in the community, in the country, but I'm a bit biased. So you do that every year, and staff does that. Those charged with governance in municipality is mayor and council. So you're the board of directors of this corporation, if you will. And you have oversight of this particular process. You have access to the external auditor, 1, 2, 3 times a year. Under the Act, the auditor has access to all meetings, all in-camera meetings, all public meetings, etc. And that's specifically in the legislation. What we do to cover that off is that we review minutes. So we'll review minutes. Again, I can appreciate the discussion tonight by members of the community with regards to going in and seeing them electronically, or the hard copy, how do you maintain minutes and that type of thing. But that gives us the ability of reading minutes of all meetings, in camera and public meetings, that the Corporation of the Township of Bonfield Council has during the course of the year. Then you got the auditor. What's the auditor responsible for? Well, the Act in Ontario says you must open up your books and give 100% access to the external audit team. They're then responsible to conduct an audit in accordance with Canadian assurance standards. Those standards are set by the Audit and Assurance Standards Board in Toronto, Ontario. Those standards mirror the international standards of assurance that are set in Europe by the International Audit and Assurance Standards Board, or the IASB. So again, Canada has adopted those, as most countries around the globe have, and they dictate how the timing of audit procedures, the nature of audit procedures, the extent of audit procedures that are performed when you roll out an external audit program. All that fancy, what it means is that we get to see your books and records, we get to check your bank statements, we get to look at bank statements, we get to look at canceled checks, EFTs, we get to look at your actual property tax roll, we get to look at MPAC assessments, and we have access to staff to ask a whole bunch of questions during the course of the audit. Okay, and then we get to report to you our findings, and that's our report here tonight. Well, the statement of financial position, the first statement that's key in your financial statements is, what did we look like at a point in time? So at December 31st, 2023, what was our position? What were our assets and liabilities, and what was our accumulated surplus, or the difference between our assets and liabilities? What did we have in reserve funds, and that type of thing? So when you look at 2023 versus 2022, I was actually quite impressed, and I've been doing this for 33 years. You ended the year with a positive bank account balance of $1.7 million. That made up of 3 different bank accounts, and that includes some. You also took advantage during the year of higher interest rates, and you're going to see that in a minute in terms of your revenues, how that impacted your revenues in 2023. But 1.7 million, up from 1.692 million in December of 2022. Your investments, again, taking advantage, over $500,000 of investments Bonfield has. And why you have that is because I'll talk in a minute about your reserve funds. You have, again, hundreds of thousands of dollars set aside for reserve funds, and you need to be a healthy municipal township corporation, okay, in Ontario. And those are used to invest in the community in future years. And again, you have specified the purpose to how you're going to use those monies in the notes to your financial statements. Taxes receivable, this council may not have heard me, but other councillors have heard me over the years talk about how important this is, $358,000. Again, we continue to encourage staff to have a process in place to collect property taxes that are levied on the community, businesses and families for properties in a timely manner, okay? It's not too bad at the end of December 2023, the $358,000. We would have liked it to be a little bit lower than that, meaning, again, a process to make sure that we're collecting those taxes, get those bills out in a timely manner, 2 times a year, follow up, etc. Get as much of those taxes in as possible by the end of December. Don't let it kick around to arrears that you'll see in the notes to the financial statements, where you're charging interest and that type of thing. And then God forbid, if the township has to take further action on that. So again, why do we do that? Why do we collect taxation? We collect taxation so we can invest in, as the mayor said, in our great community, and to allow our community to flourish, allow people to reside, have businesses, have families, do social things, etc. Accounts receivable. At the end of the year, you only had $152,000 in accounts receivable, down significantly from the prior year. Why is that? Well, if you remember, one of the biggest things you did as a township in 2022 was you invested a lot of money in our waterfront. And that was a huge mandate, okay, of the community back in 2022. And how did you do that? The first thing I've always said, first thing you do when you have a large project like that is you go out to senior levels of government. That's always your first choice. Okay, your second choice is financing it municipally, yourselves in Bonfield, and of course, getting debt. Okay, debt is not necessarily a bad thing, but getting debt obviously would be your third choice. You did go out to senior levels of government. You did get some money from NOHFC. You did get some money from FedNor, etc. in 2022 to make those investments. This year, you again did the same thing. You did use some OSIF money. You did use some development supports money. You did use some gas tax money, and you invested in Bonfield. And I'm going to talk about how you invested in Bonfield in a couple seconds. So again, a healthy $2.8 million in financial assets at the end of December. Liabilities. Again, I was quite impressed to see you had about 16 days worth of expenses sitting in accounts payable at the end of the year. I always think a healthy municipality has about 30 days worth of expenses, okay, sitting in, and you spend about $400,000 a month, roughly, to run this township. Your accounts payable sat at 217,000 at the end of the year. You paid off all the school boards for education taxes that you had collected. You paid off all your vendors. You had very, very small accruals for staff, for vacation, sick time, etc. at the end of December. Again, these are all positive KPIs. These are positive indicators at the end of December, which is a good thing. Deferred revenue, over $500,000, which is sitting in your bank account. That's on yet to be spent revenue. What is it, everyone? Gas tax. OSIF monies. It's monies that you brought in from other levels of government, provincial for the most part, that you have yet to roll out and spend. You did a fantastic job in 2023 spending on, you had some significant road improvements. You went and levered and bought a significant grader in 2023. And in doing that, you brought the deferred revenue down significantly, which I was really pleased to see, because some of that money must be used within 4 years, or else you have to return it. The last thing we want to do as a municipality is return provincial dollars. We want to spend those monies, invest in our community. And you did a good job of that. You did go get you paid down some long-term debt. Your long-term debt is sitting at $2 million, nowhere near the provincial cap, or when you look at your actual annual repayment limit, or which is called an ARL in Ontario, nowhere near that. But you ended the year at December at what, $2 million, and that's because we did go get a bank loan in the year last year because we needed a grader, and it was a significant investment that this council made, that Bonfield made in that particular piece of equipment, in that particular asset. Over and above that, you spent about $700,000 on 2 significant veins in the community, 2 significant roads in the community in terms of making improvements to those roads that was necessary to allow people to carry on their daily lives. The landfill, again, we're going to take another crack at that in 2024. I suspect it's going to jump. It's going to be a higher number than 264,000. That landfill, again, went down this year, and that got reflected in your financial statements because the discount rate went up. So the rate that we present value costs went up. Why did that rate go up? Because interest rates are up. Inflation, interest rates. So you in Bonfield have recognized some of the things that are going on in the country, and you built that into your estimates. That estimate will have to be measured a different way in 2024. And again, we'll make sure that we get on that early and assist Nikki and the team to get that trued up in 2024. You ended the year in a net financial debt position of $291,000. Again, not very significant for a township of your size at all. I won't even tell you what that number is in the province of Ontario or the government of Canada. It is a staggering number that is, to a lot of people, is quite concerning. But again, a lot of reasons why that's occurred. In Bonfield, that means we could pay off all of our debt, with the exception of about $291,000 if we just ceased to exist as a municipality. We have over $10 million in what are called non-financial assets on a book value basis. That doesn't mean a replacement value. If we started from scratch in Bonfield, it would take $100 million, to recreate what we have. And I'm just guessing at what that number is. From a book value, depreciated value basis, where it's $10 million. That's everything. Every building we own, every piece of equipment, every road improvement, every culvert, every every vehicle, computer, etc., that we have that we have legal title to in the township, as well as things like sand and oil and different things that we have on hand at the end of December that we will actually consume or utilize in 2024. And that left you with a positive number in accumulated surplus that I'll explain in a minute, of $9.7 million. That tells you where you were at the end of December. How'd you do? Okay. The statement of operations is an activity-based statement. It tells you how you did. You set a budget last year, and that budget was for roughly it was a $4.7 million budget, including about $3.6 million, $3.5 million in property taxation. So that's levying the taxpayers. And then how was that money spent? Well, we spend that on general government and council. We spend that money on protection. We spend that money on the environment. We make transfer payments to regional bodies such as Castle Home for the Aged, the District of Nipissing Social Service Administration Board, the North Bay Parry Sound District Health Unit, pardon me. And we make other transfer payments to make sure that we are part of of a growing group of communities, and we have access to those services for all of our inhabitants, all of our people. We spend money on recreation and culture, economic development, planning. Those are some of the things that money is spent on. So you think about 3.6 million in property taxation. We spend roughly $4 million, which is, I said, roughly $400,000 a month, okay, including operating and capital budgets on those different items. Again, all of them, you were within $100,000 of your budget in terms of your spend. This past year, you were basically flat from 2022 when all everyone talks about is inflation. So again, the efforts made by staff to keep costs down to a minimum, therefore to keep our property taxes to our inhabitants down to a minimum, was clearly evident in the financial statements themselves. That left you with an annual surplus of $1 million. Why is that? Well, very simple. Silly accounting rules, you know what they say? They say, well, when we go buy assets, such as the grader, such as, what were the two roads? Sorry, Corey, I know they're going to brain me. Development Road, Pine Lake Road. Some of these things that we did in 2023, some of our capital expenditures, our investments that we made, are sitting in revenue. They're sitting in, what is it called? Government transfer payments and grants. Because we used OSIF money and gas tax money. So the way government accounting works, you bring that, when you go and spend $1 million, you spent about 1.4 million last year on tangible capital assets. Well, when you use government money, that 1.4 million you spent on tangible capital assets is not here in your expenses, but the revenue is. That's the way the government accounting works. Now, depreciation or amortization is in here of about $400,000. So those investments you made in 2023 will be an expense, but they'll be an expense over a long period of time. Okay, and they'll be charged off as an expense over the next 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, as long as you use the grader, as long as we drive on those roads and enjoy the benefits of what you did in 2023. That's the way the accounting works. I'll show you a statement in a minute that backs all that out, and you basically broke even in 2023. It was a balanced budget, if you will. Okay, so if you go to the next page here it is right here. So there's a number on here, everyone, and I want council to see the number, and it's 13,568. That's the number to focus on. That's your cash in minus your cash out. Okay, in fiscal 2023, you balance to within $13,000. The budget's saying, you budget for 340,000. That's not quite true. Actually, you budget for closer to like $180,000 in a positive number, because you did have a capital budget of, I think, what was it, $180,000 or something in 2023. So that'll be reflected. We'll make that one change. But this ignores amortization, and it factors in the tangible capital assets that you bought on here. So to show you your true surplus, your true change in net debt of $13,000 to the positive, okay, compared to $134,000 the year before, which is where you want to land. On the next page, the cash flow statement, you have, this shows you how your cash changed year over year, and it only changed by $52,000. When I say cash, like I said, there's three main bank accounts that Bonfield has. And one of those bank accounts, I think at the case, has a couple term deposits, very short-term term deposits, again, to get a better interest rate, okay, included in that $1.7 million. And your cash changed year over year. From an operating standpoint, you're bringing in about $100,000 a month, positive cash. What do we do with that? We need to service debt. We need to make loan payments, okay, because we have $2 million in debt, which I'll show you in a second. So we made loan payments during the year of about $200,000. We did go borrow about $500,000 or $478,000 or so to purchase the grader in 2023 as well. And again, we did set aside some monies and some additional investments, okay, in that $500,000 of investments that services everyone your reserve funds, which again, I'll show you in a couple minutes. If we go to the next page, these are all, nothing changed here. Okay, so management has to take responsibility for the preparation of financial statements. BDO, we must take responsibility for our audit and the results of our audit, and we will sign attesting to that fact. Okay, Council, you will sign the statement of financial position as the board of those charged with governance. It's called approving the financial statements as presented to you. The rest of these notes, how you account for your cash and your inventory and your tangible capital assets, your retirement benefits, your property taxation, which includes both municipal taxes as well as education taxes. We do not recognize education taxes in Bonfield or any other municipality. You collect them and you remit them to the school boards. None of this wording changed from last year, and none of your policies are aggressive. When we get into the notes, the financial statements, you'll see things. Note 1 is brand new. So again, great job adopting the new accounting standard. This is one accounting standard that again, there was 3 accounting standards that were all applicable in 2023, brand new, significant standards. This one you adopted, and it just meant you disclosed your financial instruments. What do I mean by that? You disclosed anything fancy that you have on the go. Cash, investments, long-term debt. Those are financial instruments. Taxes receivable are a financial instrument. And I talked about that earlier. How do you manage the timing of collection of your accounts receivable? So if you think about a financial instrument, it simply is money in my bank account or soon to be in or out of my bank account. That's what financial instruments are. If Bonfield invested in a foreign currency, in a derivative, a swap, a speculative investment, I'd be concerned, and it would be disclosed here. You shouldn't do that. Okay, what you should be investing in, because it's public money, is safe term deposits, GICs. They give us a fixed rate of interest. They're, for the most part, somewhat insured under CDIC and under insurance in Canada. And again, we have a very strong financial institution system in Canada. So again, that's where, again, our reserve funds and our savings lie in the Corporation of the Township of Bonfield. And that's where, indeed, where they should be. If you try to be a little more risky, then it would be disclosed in here. If you keep scrolling, Nikki, to note 2, and it's a long accounting standard. Note 2, cash in the bank, 1.7 million. I talked about that, and again, that does include some higher interest short-term term deposits, or what are they called? That matured, I think, in April, May. Certificates of deposit, CDs, through Case Populaire. But you also have money at. You also have investments in Note 3, and you have investments at TD. You have investments at National Bank. I can't remember if there was a BMO investment or not in there, but why did you do that? We were staggering GICs and we were taking advantage of different interest rates. What I didn't want you to do was go and take, $500,000 and invest in a 5-year GIC that's locked in at 5.4% where you couldn't access it. Okay, stagger your GICs, get the best interest rates you possibly can for staggering terms, because you may need it for a capital project that pops up over the next couple of years. I talked to you about taxes receivable. The current receivable is not bad, I guess, $193,000. On your property tax base is what? $300,000 a month. So that's less than a month worth of 2023 taxes, because you do about $3.5 million a year in property taxes. But the arrears ones, that means 2022 taxes, $115,000. Wouldn't mind getting that collected. And of course, the interest that gets levied on late payments of property taxes. So again, one of my encouragements tonight is to, again, put in place, and I think we talked about it last year. Last year, we talked about, again, making sure that we gathered all the information when we were 11 months, past the year end and blah, 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 blah. This year, it was just a matter of, okay, now that we have a good sound process in place, how do we make sure we're bringing that money in a little bit quicker? Accounts receivable, it's a good thing to be a low number. Okay, and the biggest receivable that people owe, the biggest entity that owes you money is the federal government. Did I have any concerns that the federal government is doubtful? I would really be looking for a chuckle if I said that I was concerned about that. But certainly your HST rebates are receivable, and they are collectible, and they actually should be in your bank account already, that $130,000, and a small amount for user fees. Where do we invest our money in Bonfield? When Neri says you've got your business cards out here, your worship says your business cards are out here, people will call you. Jason, what have we done in 2023? We invested $776,000 in our roads. What roads? Well, what about the, I forget the name of it, Pine Lake Road. What about the government the other road.
Development.
The development road. And right away, the people of Bonfield will recognize, okay, I saw the crews out there. We recognize the betterments we made on those roads and we enjoyed that. We are benefiting from those investments. And then you see the vehicles, 582,000, which a big chunk of that was the grader and some other little equipment. And Corey reminds me, I think in there was a snow machine. Thank you, Corey, for reminding me of that.
You're not allowed to joke about that.
Yeah, well, we live in Northern Ontario. If you didn't have a snow machine, I'd be concerned. 2022, if you look at the prior year, the investments, if everyone remembers, the significant investments we made in the prior year of over $1 million were again our water park, waterfront, etc. Which again, we'd like to believe in Bonfield is a showcase, for our township, for our community. And you've done all that without increasing a ton of debt, okay? Without incurring a whole bunch of long-term debt, which is again, very, very effective. Inventories, good for you guys for going out and making sure that we had a system in place. And I give you credit, Nikki. It's December 31st. It's our year end. I'm going to be conscientious. The auditors are going to ask a question. Did we go and count our gravel, our sand, our fencing, culverts, diesel, whatever the case may be at December 31st? It's important to do it, especially if you made a large order in December. Because if you didn't do it like that, then it sits in expenses and then everyone goes, what did we do last year? You must measure that at the end of December because it won't then come in as an expense until 2024. You do have, if you need it, okay, and you've had this in place to varying degrees over the past 10 years or 15 years or however long I've been coming here, a line of credit. That line of credit is available to you of up to $1 million. Again, how much of it did you use at December 31st? 0. Okay, but it is available. And it's available and it has come in handy over the years when we had large capital projects. And we could draw on that line of credit until we got permanent financing, long-term debt. Okay, we went to the market and got long-term debt. Or ideally, we went and got a provincial transfer payment, gas tax, OSIF, NORDS funding. Okay, there's all kinds of different things. Again, credit to you guys, NOHFC, FedNor, etc. I'm sure one council member is very, very aware of how to access that money. Accounts payable, again, I was quite pleased to see your accruals for your monies you owe your staff, perfect at the end of December. Your trade payables, again, very again, $122,000. That again was I'm not sure how many more times I'm going to say again. It was a very low number for December 31st, which means you're paying all your bills on time. There's the long-term debt. So yes, we did go get a new loan at the bank, and it was down to $448,000 at the end of December. We paid off a small loan from 2022 of $16,000 is gone. Our large loan, our large $1 million loan, down to $1,025,000. You can see the rest of them there. So we did. How much did we pay? I said you paid off $200,000. You paid off roughly $181,000 or so in debt, and that's how much you'll pay off again in 2024. In 2025, you'll pay off 120, 216 in 2026. 2027 will come around, and I'm not sure who will be here in 2027. Hopefully, all of us. But you will have to renegotiate the large loan, large $1 million loan you have towards the end of that year. Okay, the landfill I talked about already. Again, the important thing about the landfill is just recognizing it is one of a couple assets that you own that at some point in time, you're going to have to write a check. Okay, the landfill, you will have to write a check at some point in time to close it. And you're going to have to write a check to care for it. Okay, because the Ministry of the Environment comes along and says, you must care for this for at least 25 years. So it's not a huge amount of money to care for it. Like there are some very cheap monitoring that can be done, but certainly, to cap it and to, the leaching and all these fancy things the engineers talk about to make sure it's safe exist. Again, same thing with the cost of remediating buildings or properties that we own that have asbestos or any other type of exposure that you need to fix. Like under the law, you need to remediate. Okay, the best thing I heard from someone was asbestos is fine when it's still, not so fine when it walks. I'm not sure asbestos walks, but certainly it does move, and when it moves, it's bad. Deferred revenue, here's your $500,000 you have in the bank at the end of December. That's government money that will likely get spent in 2024. Some of it may dribble into 2025. But again, it's gas tax money, okay, that you still have on hand. And you spent a good chunk of it. And, those two roads that I talked about, you used $500,000 of gas tax money. That's how you finance those. You don't have to go borrow money for that. The, what do you call it? Northern Ontario Resource Development Support, or the NORDS program, okay? That funding, again, you used $270,000 of that you had built up over a few years. And that's making sure, that's Nikki in particular, making sure that we're adhering to timelines of when these grant dollars need to be spent. Otherwise, they need to, as I said earlier, get paid back. And we don't ever want that. Okay. In the meantime, we had earned interest on those accounts as well. We continue to pay into OMERS for your staff. So Bonfield, for all of the employees that the mayor was talking about earlier, we make an employer contribution into OMERS, and we don't recognize our share of the OMERS asset or liability. OMERS continues to sit in a small, and I'm being a little bit sarcastic, deficit. I'm pretty sure everyone will be okay. OMERS, I think, is the third largest pension plan in Canada. It will still continue to exist, but you put $68,000 into it on behalf of your staff. Your biggest commitment, one of the things that you do, one of your largest mandates in Bonfield is protection. We must keep people, and the way we do that, we don't have a municipal police service. We do engage, or we contract out through the Ontario Provincial Police, and it costs us X dollars per year to do that. And I believe they come and they should make a presentation at least once a year. If they don't, I'd be reaching out to them to do that. Okay, because they'll talk about incidences, costs, they'll talk about those things with council. Here's your reserve funds. Okay, so you have about $1.6 million in reserve funds. You guys are a budget, what would I say? You roughly, I say 400,000, but you're probably close to 380,000 a month. So you've got 1.6 million in reserves. That's 4 months worth sitting in reserves. I like municipalities to be somewhere between 3 and 6. So you're in that 4-month range. Perfect. You have it set aside there. Council can change their mind with any of these items at any point in time through resolution, okay, following their process and policy. But you'll see your 1.6 million and how it's broken down in terms of AMP strategic priorities. That's our tangible capital assets for our township, how we spend our capital dollars. We have a capital emergencies fund. So right away, there was $800,000 for, more infrastructure. An efficiencies reserve fund, a little bit for the landfill. Castle Home, which is going to be certainly raising a capital levy or starting to charge a capital levy in the next 3 years. Fire department, a little bit of parkland reserves funds, library, etc. So you can see some of the monies, and those are all set aside. If you're wondering where are they, everyone, they're in GICs or your bank account. Okay, they exist. And the only way to change the allocation is by way of council resolution. Not only do you collect the 3.5 million from the inhabitants and property taxes, but you also collect another 650,000 on top of that for the education taxes. 10 years ago, I said that I would see the abolishment of that. Like, no one ever talks about education taxes anymore, but it still is something we all pay. And it goes to the school boards. I'm still thinking that at some point in the next decade, we will see that disappear. However, it still exists. So what we do is we actually collect it and then remit it to the school boards. We do not recognize it in our budget or our revenues. You struck a balanced budget. So earlier I showed you that you had a budget of showing a surplus of $340,000. Well, that's for accounting purposes. For cash purposes, the way you guys budget, you budget break even. And that's what the law says. Okay, but there were some items in there, such as capital expenditures, 144,000, such as paying down debt, 200,000, transfers into and out of reserves. Those are not accounting. Those are not expenses. Okay, they're not operating expenses for accounting purposes. They are cash expenses or cash outflows and inflows for municipal budgeting purposes. That's the purpose of that note. So earlier I showed council in your financial statements where you spent money. Okay, protection, general government, environmental, sorry, I already said protection. Social and health. This is how it was spent. You'll see, what was it, 1.3 million in our payroll. That's our people. Those are municipal employees of the township of Bonfield. Okay, and it's again 1.3 million to 1.3 million. So went up by, what was it, $81,000 year over year. Materials, contract services, interest expense, puny, $98,000. And amortization, no one cares about. I care about it as an accountant, but townships usually don't because it's not a cash expense. We're charging your operating statement every year for assets you bought years ago. Okay, and we're doing that because the betterment, the greater you bought in 2023 will be a greater that'll benefit the community in 2026. Okay, better be. That's your total of 4.4 million. A little statement on the library. So we continue to offer library services to our community. And then there's some segmented disclosures. So you can bring up, Nikki, the other presentation. What I'll do is I'm just going to pause here for a second and go back to your worship. And are there questions for Nikki or I on the financials that have been presented to you as members of council before I make my last couple comments?
Any question?
I am gonna go back to the accumulated surplus.
Yep.
So, for twenty
If you
twenty-three,
could bring up the statement again.
Page 24.
so can you explain how we got to the general surplus for twenty twenty-three?
So that I have a star beside the general surplus. Thank you, Councillor Clark. The $610,000, one of two things is going to happen with it. Okay, how you got to it? So basically, your net income, your accounting surplus for the year, you take your accumulated surplus on January 1st, 2023, and then you add in your accounting surplus for 2023. And then you subtract out anything that has been set aside in reserves or capital assets. So what this note is showing you is you have, what is it, 9.7 million in accumulated surplus in note 15. Of that, okay, of that $9.7 million, we already know that we already know how much we have invested in tangible capital assets. Okay, we already know that 2.3 million we're going to go recover in a future year. You know what that means? That means that's your long-term debt. That's all those loans and your landfill obligation together. That's the 2.3 million. You're going to recover those through future taxation, future years of property taxation revenue. And then the other part of the breakdown is the 1.6 million. So the general surplus is the difference. Okay, it's the unappropriated surplus. The best way I can tell you this is you could do a resolution tonight and move that 610 into reserves. And you could pick where you did it or set up your own reserve fund. And you could do that by way of council resolution. I wouldn't do it for all of it, simply because over the next couple of years, the grader, as an example, will be an expense next year and the year after and the year after, which will knock down that $610,000. Okay, if you just simply budget on a cash basis. So again, what is the general surplus number of 610,000? It is the difference between your accumulated surplus minus your reserve funds, minus your long-term debt, minus your tangible capital assets that you have gone out and acquired. That 610 could be put into your reserves and reserve funds. I would not recommend all of it, but I would recommend some of it can be put into your reserve funds. Now, that just as easily goes away next year if you think about it. If you incurred more debt, then all of a sudden that number changes. Okay, if you bought more tangible capital assets, but you didn't buy it using OSIP or gas tax money, then all of a sudden that number changes. So again, it's entirely up to council. It's not like I said, it's an yet to be appropriated reserve fund.
This would be a one-time surplus.
It is accumulative since day one when the Township of Wannfield was incorporated back 70 years ago or whatever it was to today. That's a cumulative number of 610,000. You'll see what it was last year was 142,000.
Yeah.
Yep. So it is right up to, it's not a one-time, it is at December 31st, 2023. That's the number.
So it's a rolling number.
It's a rolling number to answer your question. Yes. Okay. But there is some planning you can do around it. I wouldn't use all of it. Because and why I say that, I get a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
I get a little nervous if it gets negative. And it can. If it gets negative, then when you say you have 1.6 million in reserve funds, you really don't. You understand what I'm saying? You really won't have that
Right.
sitting in the bank account.
So that's 610. If we wanted to purchase 450 in equipment, we could use some of that.
That's correct. And that 610 would go up into investment in tangible capital assets, and the 610 would go down. Had you done that, there's a great way of explaining it, Councillor Clark. Had you gone and bought a $400,000 piece of equipment at the end of December, then that 610 would be 210. Because you used your current year revenues and expenses.
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out how we got to 600.
Yeah, it is.
That's-
It's cumulative.
Right.
Okay, but there are ways to utilize it.
Jason, do you have any questions?
I don't, probably just more of a statement. Appreciate your time. Dean, I think, pretty pleased with where the financial statements have landed this year. I think it's showing a healthy budget that shows a balance between investments and planning for the future, investments in our roads, investments in our infrastructure, investments in some of our equipment, and also planning for the future. So I am pleased to see this tonight. Thanks, Your Worship.
Councillor Featherstone?
I'm just pleased with the timelines as well. A little bit earlier than previous years and previous expectations, I guess. So moving forward, I like to see our audited statement and our budgets in on time so that we can use them appropriately.
Fair point.
And I would like to thank the staff as well as Dean. And I think it's bringing good news to our municipality and with a very good looking budget right now. And thank you very much, Dean.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. So this presentation you have available to you, all of you. I'm not gonna, by no means am I going through it all. This is the audit findings report. Most of the items I've talked about already. So if you just take a minute, just scroll down, I'll just hit on 5 big items. You can keep going. Yeah, right there. So, no, the last slide, sorry.
The risks.
Yeah, one more back. Yeah, right there, perfect. So 5 key items. One, what BDO, did you maintain your independence throughout the audit? So we have to be independent when we start the audit, we have to be independent during the audit, we have to be independent after the audit. That means we can't have any relationships here where you guys are gonna go, well, you're not very objective. You know, if at the end of the year, you came in and Nikki said, you know, the grass is blue outside, and we said, okay, yeah, it looks blue because Nikki's always told us the truth. Well, no, we have to go and look. Corey has to go and look to see if the grass is really blue. If it's green, then we challenge. And that's what you want in an audit firm. You don't want one that is complacent or laissez-faire. You want one that is, again, objective in forming their opinion and takes their external audit very, very seriously, which we do. So that's independence. The second one is, again, on responsibilities. It is definitely a responsibility, to Councillor Featherstone's point, to get timely constructive recommendations back to management, which we will do by way of management letter, to get our audit opinions signed in a timely manner, so you can file your FIR in a timely manner, where you can use the information as well as fulfill the mandate in the province of Ontario. So you can, continue to receive your funding from Ontario, obviously. So those are all very, very important things. We want to make sure that they're done in a timely manner. Now we go to the next slide. The third thing is, we have responsibilities with regards to fraud and illegal acts. So the absolute pillar to the testing around fraud and illegal acts is twofold. We're looking to see if misappropriation of assets has occurred, and we design tests to look for that. We're looking for, in particular, expenses paid to individuals, staff in particular, or council, okay, that was not authorized. It ought not to have been paid. That's misappropriation of assets. We design tests to reduce the risk of that occurring to an acceptable level. Never 100%, That being said, we do tests for that. And we'll scan bank statements, we'll look at EFTs, we'll look at checks, we'll in particular look at anything where only one person has to sign, because that's bad. The other thing we look for is aggressive management or aggressive governance. Okay, if in our opinion there's aggressive governance, we resign. Period. Like there's no way to conduct an audit in that environment. Aggressive management, we sometimes can manage. Aggressive management can be okay if they can be managed properly, if you can still conduct procedures and testing and things of that nature. What we don't want is we don't want reports going out on the letterhead of the Township of Bonfield saying that we have bluegrass in Bonfield, and you're sending that out to everyone in the province, so people from Chatham, Kent, run up here and buy a home when you knew you don't have bluegrass in Bonfield. So you purposely deceived someone by sending that information out. We can't have that. And we have tests designed to reduce the risk to an acceptable level to make sure that does not happen, including your FIR and your financial statements every year. You cannot be in a situation where you're putting those out in the public when you know or ought to have known they were wrong and they were going to deceive a user. The fourth thing is materiality. We don't audit to the dollar. Otherwise, we'd be here. Corey would be here full time every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which would be very annoying. And so we do have to pick a number, and we pick a number that's conservative. We pick a number that's, roughly 2% of your annual budget. And again, thinking about your budget, you're looking at about $4 million. You're looking at, somewhere between $80,000 and $100,000. That, that's kind of the level that we're looking at when we're auditing. So there can be errors in your financial statements. As long as they don't exceed that number, then we can still sign a clean report. If there was an error of $40,000, then I would bring it to your attention tonight. Okay, it's not material. I didn't affect my report, but we forgot to accrue the Bell bill at the end of December. I pick on Bell so often. I hope you don't work at Bell, anybody. But I do. It's terrible. I pick on their share value, and I pick on them as a supplier of services. I should have picked the one. What's the new Starlink. Yeah, that's right. You forgot to pay your Starlink bill at the end of December. So what happens is Nikki pays it in January, expenses it in 2024. Week BDO comes along and says, you should have recorded it in December, but it was, $62. We don't care, right?
But we would set up a liability for that, no?
Yes, but if it wasn't material, we would just pass on it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Your threshold is 2%.
Yes, of the budget. Yep. Very well said. And again, most adjustments that we went through, we went through all the adjustments and we made the corrections. All of them actually. Finally, number 5, the status of the audit. There has to be a resolution by council, by mayor and council, to approve the financial statements as presented to you tonight by your CAO and me. We'll have to get a signed rep letter, which we will get tomorrow. Subsequent events, we have done our testing to our satisfaction for January 1st to May 28th. That nothing has happened to the corporation, the Township of Bonfield, that was noteworthy in your financial statements or that would impact any of your assets, liabilities, revenues, or expenses. That is based on our audit testing. I am dependent on hearing from council tonight if something has happened, if you're aware of, the best example or the example that's in our standards is a significant a fire. A building has been demolished by way of a natural act or something like that, then, and those are typically examples. The other one could be a significant litigation that has been brought on, a statement of claim against Bonfield, in the last, since January 1st up to tonight. If those things exist, then we may want to take a look at it. And I think if you go to the next page, I don't think there's anything else. But I talked about the audit findings of the different things. Happy to say we will issue a management letter, but there's nothing tonight. One of the questions I usually get from council is, Dean, are any of our processes, we talked about processes tonight, are any of our processes flawed, or do they need some significant improvement? And I'm happy to say that no control deficiencies were noted. That being said, we will issue a management letter that will talk to some housekeeping items, okay? And that will go right to your CAO. And that'll come within the next 3 weeks, or whenever Corey gets off vacation, which he's never allowed, by the way.
Yeah.
So the last thing in my presentation that I will, you can keep scrolling down.
Okay.
Thanks, Nikki. You can just keep going down. The last thing is a reminder, and I know I said this to chief and council. I know I said this to a mayor and council last year. was that we are living in a world right now where financial statements and financial measures are very important, and that's what we just went through tonight. But non-financial measures are almost just as important in the marketplace right now. And we had an example of a taxpayer that came from Chatham, Kent tonight, moved here, moved his family here, started a life here. One of the things that he or she may have, you know what I mean, in general, one of the things that people may do is go onto a website and look. They may want to see what your sustainability KPIs are. They may want to see your ESG. What's your platform? How are we responsible for carbon footprint in Bonfield? How do we make sure that we have a diverse and inclusive community in how we hire people, in how we decide who to buy services from or goods from? We're not biased against people because of their race, color, religion, gender, sexual orientation. These are things right now. And then finally, governance. How do I know if I'm living in Peterborough and I want to move to Bonfield that Bonfield has good, strong governance? We have, 52 meetings a year. The meetings last for 3 hours. We have, here's our processes and that type of thing. This right now is being forced upon internationally and in Canada, publicly traded companies. It will eventually make its way down to governments. Right now, you can find an ESG statement for BDO Canada on the website. You can find one for some ministries in the province of Ontario on a website. What are we doing in Bonfield to differentiate ourselves for someone that wants to move and relocate here? What are we doing with regards to those 3 items? Good, strong governance and leadership, and again, that's contagious throughout our staff, right? Good responsibility with regards to the environment and how we treat the environment in terms of who we buy from and things that we allow to happen in our community. And of course, making sure that we are a very diverse and inclusive community and township in all of our actions. So there is a slide in the presentation that you all have available to you, and I think it's called ESG or sustainability. You can read up on it. Everyone's talking about it. Why BDO talks about it, or why the municipal auditor talks about it, is it is subject to attest for certain entities. What that means is that, I keep giving my example, but the grass is blue. Well, hold on a second. Nikki, you said it was blue, but you had someone sign off on it that is saying, that they said, yes, it actually is blue, which gave it more credibility, right? So when Walmart comes out and makes their statement, and so that they will get PwC or they'll get someone to attest to the fact that, yes, these are things they have in place. These are things they're doing. So there is audit/assurance standards around ESG reporting, and that exists today. I talk about it because do I have any cities right now, that are actually doing ESG reporting where I'm auditing and I'm checking to make sure that they're saying the truth? No. I've been saying it to all of my clients just as a value add. It just makes common sense. What are some things that we're doing? What's the benefit of it, Dean? Well, the benefit is that you may get people to move to your community because of some of the things you're doing. Jan, my wife and I donate now to charities. We don't just do it because of what the charity does. We also do it because we believe they're responsible with regards to the environment. We believe, based on their website, that they are a diverse and inclusive charity, right? If you had a charity that just didn't give a crap about the environment, but they cared for children, do you donate to them? Do you understand what I'm saying? So it is just another way of talking about who you are as a corporation. So, and it's something that obviously I'm excited about. I mean, after 33 years, I have to get excited about something. I mean, it is accounting, right? So I eventually have to find something that's intriguing. So again, I'll push it back to see if there's any last questions. And otherwise, I'm again very happy to be here tonight.
No, thank you. That was excellent.
Now you can applaud.
Ooh, very good. Everybody's happy. Are you ready for the motion?
Yes.
Here we go. With respect to the presentation from BDO for our 2023 financials, moved by Councillor Featherstone, second by Councillor Corbett. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Bonfield hereby acknowledges receipt and approves the 2023 consolidated financial statements for the Township of Bonfield as prepared by the firm of BDO Canada LLP, and that council directs the CAO to provide public notice that a copy of the 2023 consolidated financial statements is available at the municipal office and on the township's website in accordance with section 295 of the Municipal Act 2001. All in favor? Carried. Next, we have the report from the Public Works, but with respect to dust reduction, there's, do you have that?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
in, I
Okay.
believe it's in everybody's package. So the. Might have to get to that page. Glasses. Yes, so there was the quote, we do a joint quote with the municipality and East Bears. And we do this annually, so I think you have all of the reports and the analysis and everything of what that looked like. Dust control did go up significantly. We had budgeted 58,000 in our budget, and you can see that we are going to be closer to 79, sorry, thousand. And that's just the unit cost that increased. We didn't increase the amount of calcium that we're using, it's just the unit cost that did increase, so. And that is what we need in order to do the dust control within the municipality. So the new cost will be $79,000 and $140.
Any questions?
Okay, your worship, not specifically to this, but at some point, we're gonna also talk about kind of schedule for dust control, when it's gonna start, and communicate that out to.
Yes,
the
yeah,
municipality.
we had spoken about that at corporate services as well, so this, we do need it to not rain, and we need stars to align, as every municipality does when we're laying down the calcium, but we do expect that it will start very soon.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Next is, sorry, okay. Report from Public Works Manager, except as our CAO, report for dust suppression 2024. Moved by Councillor Featherstone, seconded by Councillor Clark. The Council for the Township of Bonneville awards request for quotes EF 2024-03 for the supply and application of dust control and road stabilization materials to Pollard Highway Products in the amount of $79,139.55, including HST for the volume required by the Township of Bonneville. All in favor? Carried. Next, we have the adoption of committee meetings. So we have a motion for our corporate services committee meeting. Moved by Councillor Featherstone, seconded by Councillor Corbett. Whereas the Corporate Services Committee received reports on the replacement of the backhoes on March the 22nd and April 11th, 2024, with quotes for a new backhoe and excavator. And whereas the committee received this updated report of May 22nd, 2024, and whereas the committee got two committees in here, received this updated report, and whereas the committee recommended to council the purchasing of new equipment, a backhoe and excavator from John Deere, allowing for standardizing the fleet with two pieces of equipment from the same supplier. Be it hereby resolved that council approves of this recommendation. Any comments?
I'll comment if you could. I think it's just important since we have, a number of people in the audience this evening. Hopefully everyone tuned into the committee meeting where this was discussed at length. We are at a position within our municipality where we're seeing significant repair bills for some of our aging equipment. And when you add together some of the rentals of pieces of equipment that we have to do within the municipality, together with the repair bills of some of our existing equipment, this actually works out to be net neutral for the municipality from a cost perspective. It also allows us to be at the ready, so projects can happen in a timely fashion. We're not waiting on equipment. We're not waiting on equipment that's been broken down. We're not waiting on, or we only have, we're waiting for a rental piece of equipment in 3 weeks, so we can't start when we want to start. So it's providing a lot of ability for our public works to be far more responsive within the community for what is going to be very close to net neutral cost compared to what we've been spending for repairs previously. And although he's not here tonight, I would like to acknowledge our new public works manager for the work that he's doing with our public works crew to ensure that they are trained appropriately to operate that equipment. For those that know roads within our community, I think what you're going to start seeing is additional gravel put into the roads, no berms on the side of the road, so the grader not leaving the berms on the side of the roads. If you drive around now, I think you can see quite a bit of that. So I think it's important to acknowledge the great work of our Public Works Committee. Our Public Works staff, not committee. They do good work too, but the Public Works staff. So I'm excited by this investment. I think it's actually timely for the municipality to get this done. So.
Thank you.
Just to add on to that too, it's I think it goes beyond, we won't be outsourcing work as well, which is very costly. So we can now bring all of that in-house, and the benefit would be our staff now get to be trained and have that experience. So.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you.
Councillor Featherstone.
Got it covered.
Very good. All in favor? Carry. Next, we have Emergency Services Committee, no minutes for this session. And then we have Planning Advisory Committee and May 16th, 2024 recommendation. So we have a resolution moved by Councillor Featherstone, second by Councillor Clark. Whereas the Planning Advisory Committee recommends to Council that consent application B1 2024 Dennis and Denise Ramo for a lot addition be approved. Be it hereby resolved that Council approves this recommendation along with the conditions and notes as set out on the attached decision of approval authority form. All in favor? Thank you.
And you have the form to sign.
Recreation Committee, no minutes. Nothing. The Police Services Board, I might mention now that our Police Services Board is not only the Township of Bonfield, it's the Township of East Ferris and the Township of Chisholm. So that our board has come together. And strangely enough, about 20 years ago, we had the same thing, 3 municipalities, and our board was called the Noswin Police Services Board. And it looks like from the minutes that's the name that we're going to go with. So there is a conference in Collingwood next week. I will be attending, and our council representative as well, and I believe 2 from East Ferris will be going there to see, especially with all the changes within the Police Services Act and the boards with the reconstruction of the boards, and so we will be there. But other than that, I don't have anything to say about the Police Services Board.
There's a second, I believe there's a second recommendation from the Planning Advisory Committee.
Oh,
The Prime Ag,
did I miss it?
Yeah.
The Prime Ag report.
Oh, way down here. Sorry. I'll go back to that. Moved by Counselor Featherstone, seconded by Counselor Corbett. Whereas J.L. Richards provided the Planning Advisory Committee with a report regarding the designation of prime agricultural lands, and whereas the planning administrator provided a technical report supporting the letter received from the Ministry of Agriculture and Food at the official plan review in 1997, and whereas the Planning Advisory Committee recommended to Council to accept the report, that it will be presented to J.L. Richards concerning the designation of the prime agricultural lands within the official plan. Be it hereby resolved that Council approves of this recommendation. All in
I
favor?
have a question,
Carried.
sorry.
Oh,
Sorry.
I have a
there's
question.
question.
sorry.
Oh, okay.
So that report, I think it's to staff or through you. How much did that report cost? Because that was not included in the official plan.
I wrote the report.
The one that JL Richards did though, did they do did that cost us anything?
Yes, the original JL Richards report was $5,300. That was approved previously in their resolution. And then this report was written by the planning administrator.
Right, it was a really good report, thank you. And so we have no prime ag in Bonfield. That's what the letter said from 1997, correct? And that's our response back to JL Richards.
Correct.
Okay,
Which is accompanying, we just get the recommendations from our PAC committee last meeting. We went through the last little bit that had to be solidified with the official plan. It's currently going to be sent to the province with that technical report for pre-consultation.
okay. So we should probably get 50% back of that fee, right? So,
Definitely a conversation to be had.
okay.
Yes. It still does depend. It's still not as much as I believe that the planning administrator proved very well that we need not have soil that would be conducive without a large investment. It's still up to the ministry on what they decide on the designation.
So
But
they-
I think we've done a great job. of-
Yes, no, excellent, because they've given away all the prime ag, the really good prime ag, and now they're going after the secondary prime ag, right? So. Anyway, thank you.
Okay.
They being the province.
Yes.
Yes.
Next, we have items for council discussion. And we have a resolution to adopt bylaw 2024-38, which is -3824 tax ratios. Where did my page go? What's this one? You have to read this whole time?
No, there's just the motion.
They'll make me read it all.
No, top of page 3 on your motions.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, almost skipped it. Moved by Councillor Featherstone, second by Councillor Clark. The Council for the Township of Bonfield hereby adopts bylaw 2024-38, being a bylaw for establishing tax ratios for the year 2024 as presented, and is considered read 3 times and passed this 28th day of May 2024. Any question? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, we have some motions that we asked staff to prepare motions for, and this is support for Loyalist Township with respect to the Accessible Ontario by 2025. Moved by Councillor Featherstone, second by Councillor Corbett, that the Council for the Township of Bonfield supports the Township of Loyalist in encouraging the provincial government to create a municipal accessibility fund for municipalities to develop, implement, and enforce the accessibility of Ontario standards related to goods, services, accommodation, employment, and buildings. Such a fund could be modeled after the Canada Community Building Fund or the Ontario Cannabis Legalization Implementation Fund on a per household basis, and to commit to working with municipalities to implement the Donovan Review immediate crisis recommendation. All in favor? Carried. Next, we have the municipality of Trent Hills funding social services. Moved by Councillor Featherstone, seconded by Councillor Clark, that the Council for the Township of Bonfield supports the municipality of Trent Hills, calling upon the province to significantly increase funding for housing, shelters, and other necessary social services to ensure adequate levels of services to meet the needs of our residents. All in favor? Carried. Next, we have the Town of Bracebridge request to the province for new provincial municipal fiscal framework. Moved by Councillor Featherstone, second by Councillor Corbett, that the Council for the Township of Bonfield supports the Town of Bracebridge, calling on the province of Ontario, committing to undertaking with the Association of Municipalities of Ontario a comprehensive social and economic prosperity review to promote the stability and sustainability of municipal finances across Ontario. All in favor? Carried. Next, we have the town of Smith Falls Basic Income Guarantee. Moved by Councillor Featherstone, second by Councillor Clark, that the Council for the Township of Bonfield supports the town of Smith Falls, calling on the federal and provincial governments to collaborate on the design, introduction, implementation, and ongoing evaluation of a national basic income guarantee program for working age adults. All in favor? Carried. Next, we have correspondence. We've received correspondence, and are we going to ask staff to prepare motions for our next council meeting with respect to the letter from Enbridge? Did they require a response? No?
I don't think so. The letter from Onbridge was just an update on,
Just update on
Yeah,
their
they were.
fees. Yeah, okay. And then Phenom with respect to keeping energy costs down. I think they wanted us to do a letter
yeah.
with
Mhm.
respect to that.
Bring
So,
that back.
yeah. Next, we have a letter from Dwayne and Christina Howie with respect to a letter regarding user fees.
Right. And so there's two emails from Mr. and Mrs. Howie and one from Ms. Langos. And I would just like to comment to say thank you for taking
For
the time.
both of them?
For both of them, yeah. They are, the letters are about the user fees that are the permit, fire permit, and the animal permits, and that they're just expressing some concern about them. And I think that we can have discussion and talk about that and review to see what that looks like. So I just want to thank them for sending in their email and their concern. And I think that's, I think that's great. This is how this should work, and that, they're nicely expressing their opinion. I think we have not passed those yet. What is it going to look like? Oh, have we passed that? Okay, so I don't know if we need to reopen that or just talk about it. So I'll just say what my concern is. The animal fee, I think, is $20. Is that per tag?
Yes.
Yes. So is there some kind of relief
Sorry, it's for the first
tag? Okay, and then
first tag, and then there's a reduction
for
for
this.
the second and other tags.
Okay, good.
Yes.
And it's a significant reduction?
I believe it's $10 for the second.
It's usually 50%, right?
Right,
Yeah.
usually.
Yeah.
Okay, and so then moving forward, I guess our opportunity is to see how this goes, and then we could review this next year as well. Correct, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever we bring in a new bylaw, it would have to have an evaluation period, so we would be able
Okay.
to look at that. And certainly user fees always come up at budget time.
Okay, and then I guess, so I know that I explained this, but you know, I think we've thrown a lot of things at people, and so we did explain that we're looking at 70%, that it does cost to issue these. So currently you are issuing them, and it does cost to issue it, and it's a fee for service that we are implementing. So the people who are using the service contribute to paying for it rather than it going on the tax base. Right, so that was, you know, and we have not been charging for it, but it's not because it's not a fee for it. Like, it does cost money to do it.
Presently, animal control services cost the township $1,000 a month. So in implementing some of those tags, it was a way for the township to recuperate some of those costs. And this is basically, like you said, cost recovery for the ones that use that service. So if you were to lose your cat or dog by calling the Humane Society, they would have a tag to call back on. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And we kind of see a lot of that here, you know, that's just the nature of animals. They get out, and you know, there's always someone looking for a loved pet. So, and then with respect to the fire permit, again, we've recommended $10, and it is about education and reducing the liability to the township. So there is an insurance component to that. But again, you know, if people need information, please call the township or call any of the counselors.
good.
And $10, sorry, guys, sorry. And $10 for the fire permit is the cheapest that we've seen in any municipality. You know, a lot of municipalities have it, and I think they're going the same route as an education piece and as an insurance piece. You know, you look at other municipalities, it's much higher than 10, and we've looked at other numbers and we've compromised on 10 to try and keep the cost down to people, but to try and get this program up and running and you know,
And
kind
we
of,
changed the times.
and we did change the times to
Yeah,
make it.
so it's so
little bit
burning
more
can start at
family
5,
friendly.
right, to try to make it a little more family friendly.
So I'll just say,
Oh, we haven't passed that yet. The fire one, we have not passed
We
yet.
passed the fee, we have not passed the open air.
Oh, okay,
So the fee becomes applicable once we pass
the open air, okay.
so I'll just say, clearly a $10 fee for the fire permit is not a moneymaker for the municipality. Like, it's to think that we're some money hungry and we're just trying to collect an exorbitant amount of money. Obviously, that isn't the case when we tried to keep it at $10, which isn't even covering the cost of the permit. So I am more than comfortable with the fact that to ensure that we have appropriate education, as Councilor Clark was saying, to ensure that we are abiding by insurance recommendations, that we are keeping our township safe. I think that is reasonable. And on the pets, I will just say, one of the issues that I heard through the election, I can't speak for everybody, but I continue to hear, is the stray pets that seem to be littered throughout our municipality, and all of the challenges that we have with that. So in order for us to actually start controlling that, first thing we have to do is be able to identify pets versus stray feral cats that are just out there, or dogs, or what have you. So in order to be able to identify that, we have to have some semblance of a system that's working, and then we can actually take next steps to ensure that we are rehoming stray cats or what have you, to appease all of those comments that we've been hearing, very rightly so. I think we all see it. If we go anywhere in the hamlets, it's pretty obvious that we have a bit of an issue happening. So
Oh, I have another. Sorry, and I know that we are looking at bringing that in-house as well, correct? So there's a report coming, because currently it's our
North
we
Bay.
have a purchase of service in North Bay. And so
Humane
if
Society.
it's roughly the same amount of money and this can help us,
Yes,
we,
but North Bay is a city. This isn't a city. This is a country town.
correct. But so what I'm saying, so that we can actually have that here so that you don't, there's not someone coming from North Bay, it's gonna be in Bonfield. We're looking at that report, so that's gonna, for next year.
Yes, for the services that North Bay and District Humane Society provides us.
Yes.
That's what the report will show council, the difference in cost between having North Bay Humane Society and in staff.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's,
I just wanted
CAO, sorry.
I just wanted to point out, I mean, I know there's been a lot of the bylaws and the user fees. And in the financial statements, when we did talk about the statement of operations on the activities, we budgeted under user fee for revenue of our $4.7 million budget. We budgeted $94,000 in revenue and our actual was only $97,000 in revenue. So it only makes up like 2.5% of our actual revenues. Our actual budget comes from those user fees.
One more clarification on the fines, as we were reading something in there, that if the smoke happens goes across like a street and somebody's offended by it, there's a $250 fine.
For,
It's like, say you have a campfire or you have a wood stove going and the smoke happens goes across the road. And somebody's offended by that, it's a $250 fine. Is this true or is this?
I don't know anything about that.
I don't.
So, and under the set fees, it's a pretty standard. So if the smoke does, it has to be substantial smoke. It has to have, like, impair somebody's vision when they're driving. So it has to be pretty substantial, and that means that somebody's not following the
You're
rules,
burning a tire.
right?
If
So
you're
you're not
burning
following the
tires,
rules
yeah.
in the bylaw, so then there is a fine for that.
Okay.
But
It also states in the bylaw that what you're supposed to burn and not burn, like you're supposed to actually burn appropriate combustible materials, not tires, not. So really, if you're having an appropriate fire, it's not the natural white smoke that might occur because your wood's a little too wet. Like
Yeah,
that,
but-
yeah.
Take the instance with the dog tags and the cat tag. I can understand dog tags, but cat tags, have you ever tried keeping a collar around the cat?
I'm not a cat owner, so I can't tell you that I have, but I can tell you that's the concerns we're hearing from a lot of people in the community is the stray cats that our community is plagued with it currently. So that's the challenge we're trying to overcome. Thank you.
Okay, and the other lady, Adriana, is she here?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank
you.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
She had the same concerns.
Mhm.
She had the same concerns.
Yeah, the same,
Yeah, yeah.
basically the same concern.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you
And
for
thank you
coming.
for your letter to come on the agenda. Next, we have moved by Councillor Featherstone, seconded by Councillor Clark, that the Council for the Township of Bonfield hereby adopts bylaw 2024-37 to confirm the proceedings of council from May 14, 2024 to May 28, 2024 as presented and is considered read 3 times and passed this 28th day of May 2024. All in favor?
Sorry, your worship. Go back to number 10 to adopt the correspondence.
All right.
Number 10,
Yes, to adopt the correspondence circulated.
okay, moved by Councillor Featherstone, seconded by Councillor Corbett. The council receives the correspondence circulated with the agenda, May 28, 2024. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. I get anxious to get through it.
It's so close to the end.
So, before we pass the resolution for adjournment, I would like to say that I really appreciate everyone that came out here tonight to speak with us, to hear our auditors speak. And not only that our budget, we will have to increase taxes. That's what is expected. And I don't think we're going to have a big increase, but we have to increase in order to provide the services that this municipality gives. And it's nice to be able to speak to the people, to let them know that we are here for the municipality. We're here for the taxpayers. We were put here by the taxpayers, and we'll do everything to make our municipality proud. And we have a staff here, an excellent staff, that you just call this office and ask questions. If you want to meet with any one of the counselors, the door is open. I said when we were sworn in, that my office is not my office. My office is there for the use of any counselor that would like to meet with any taxpayer. So we're here for you, and I hope that I know that there's probably this many people appreciates it, and everyone can see what's going on live on all our financial statements and everything that was presented tonight, which was presented very well. And again, if you want to talk to any counselor or myself, just give us a call and ask the question. So on that note, thank you. And thanks for giving us the opportunity to let you know really what we're doing up here. Moved by Councillor Featherstone, second by Councillor Corbett, that this meeting adjourn at
8:42.
8:42. Whoops. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Whoops, I forgot to do that.
Or the wagon herd.